Good evening, my friends, and welcome back to part 2 of our totally comprehensive puzzle tier list for every puzzle in Blueprince Acts 1 to 3. So right away from the start of the game through to reclaiming the throne. Spoiler alert for all of these puzzles ahead. Last time out, we covered everything from Act 1. So now we have reached room 46 and we have the crown. But what we got presented when we pulled that room 46 lever for the first time was 8 doors that seem not to be able to be opened. And what you find when you get into room 46 is a very clear set of instructions as to the next set of things you're going to go and find. There are 8 clues on here, and this very clearly telegraphs the next big puzzle you're going to have to do. You need to go and find 8 Sanctum keys and open these 8 doors. Now, the first key I'm actually going to disqualify from consideration on the basis that the first key is literally found in room 46 itself. There is not really any distinction between the puzzle that gets you into room 46 and the puzzle that gets you the first Sanctum key, so don't even worry about it. Key number 2. The clue for key number 2 is it's locked tight in a vault. The vault is literally a room in the house, and to find key number 2 is literally just a waiting game to find the vault key. There is very little puzzle to that clue. It is just the key is locked into one of the safe deposits boxes in the vault, and that's pretty much it. So yes, there are places where the key is more likely to spawn, I guess, but other than that, you are just treading water, waiting for this key to spawn. Our first puzzle of episode 2 is gonna be D tier, because there's very little puzzle to it. You are just kind of waiting for it to happen. On the other hand though, key number 3 is one of my favourite ones. The third is up high among all the clocks. When we get the clock tower, you kind of think, okay, it's going to be something up here with all of the clocks. There's a giant 1:30 on the floor of the tower, so you're like, right, okay, maybe there's like a temporal aspect to this clue. Is it going to be related to that poem at the top of the clock tower? Possibly. Although actually it turns out that it's not going to be. You go to the clock tower at 1:30, and you get opened a secret passage which takes you to a bunch of clocks, and the clocks give you a really interesting sort of mathsy puzzle about a certain number of clocks are going to be this time, and this clock has to be later than that clock, and this clock has to be on the hour, and so on and so forth, right? And it uses this mechanic of blue memos are true, red memos are false, unless they're handwritten, in which it's true. It's a really nice puzzle, gets you to use your run to try and find it. You want to try and find the clock tower by a certain period of time, and then you can go and do the puzzle. Unlike puzzle number 2, key number 2, where it's like, I need this item, and I need to find this room in the same run, unless I'm using coat check or moon pendant or similar. It's just, let's find the clock tower within a reasonable time frame, and that will get us a really nice set of puzzles that we're going to unlock. So key number 3, I'm going to put it in A tier. Key number 4, it's down below beneath all the docks. So key number 4, this is where you need the boiler room, which by this point you probably know how to use. You drain the reservoir all the way to the bottom, and you have many, many, many boxes, all of which kind of contain a clue as to where the Sanctum key might be found down there. Now, there's also allowance tokens to find and things like that. We basically ended up opening all the boxes because we got incredibly unlucky as well. As well as not being able to find it, we also got incredibly unlucky with our clues too. We did turn up with a lot of keys, and we opened about half the boxes. But we got the key, eventually. But you know what? It's kind of nice, and it's because those boxes are outside the house, you don't have to worry about trying to do it in one episode. You can, or in one day rather, you can spend your days sort of working through it. And really the hardest part about this puzzle is getting the pump room powered. So I think number 4 is going to end up as a B tier puzzle. Quite nice, a little bit of logic on your choice of boxes, but you can also brute force it, and that's fine. Key number 5, we're going to skip for now. Key number 5's the big one, and it's the last one that we found. It's definitely the most involved with finding. I think key number 5 assumes that you're going to have found a lot of the stuff along the way beforehand. Key number 6 is in a station left by one of your own. So key number 6 is in the safe house. So it's not particularly hidden in the safe house. The puzzle is how to find the safe house. There are sort of various clues about the existence of the safe house, not least Alzara. It's like the one Alzara prophecy that's actually useful, because you see a door that does not exist elsewhere, and that is what's going to take you to the safe house. But yeah, you're looking at the you're looking around, you know, in the reservoir, and maybe you spot the hole that you're going to need to go down with the boats. You've got to get the pump room to the right level. There is a clue, of course, up by the May the 9th puzzle, where you can look through the window. Actually, I think it's the other window, isn't it? But you can look through the window and you can see the levels of the reservoir in the window pane. And that kind of tells you where the reservoir needs to be. But yeah, number 6 is nice, and it kind of helps to move the lore along, helps move the plot along, and gives you a strong indication that yes, there is indeed more to be seen. Number 7 is quite nice, a little bit of wordplay. The 7th key is major if you draft it late. There is only one room which references the use of major keys, and that is the music room. And indeed, if you draft that at one of the high ranks, there is a chance that you get key number 7 to turn up there, which is how we found it. I think we found this one actually as the first key we found after number 1. I think that's going to end up in... that's going to end up in C tier 2. Finally, number 8. The last key's waiting behind the last door of 8. Now, this took a little bit of thinking about, because you have to have realised that the mechanarium can have more than 4 doors in it. But I really like this one. This one I really rate, because it's about how experienced you are with using the mechanarium. Whether the mechanarium is not available on the edges of the map, right? Same as any room that has that would have external facing doors. No room which has 4 exits can ever be drafted on the wings. The mechanarium can only be drafted in the middle, but if you draft it in a place where it would have a boarded up door, that door just doesn't exist at all, and it skips to the next door. We did it by actually getting like extra workshops into our pool using Hall of Mirrors, and we ended up drafting like the full 8 mechanical rooms to get it. But there are some neat mechanics to get it to work a little bit easier for you, and I really rate that one, because the behind the door of 8, it's a good clue, and it's just enough that I think you could work that out. The number 8 does appear as a recurring motif in this game, like a lot, you know, a lot. Okay, now let's talk about the big one, key number 5. Sanctum key number 5 is where we start getting into the very, very densely populated A New Clue book. A New Clue is a wild It's a wild ride, it really is, because in those pages is densely packed the clues to at least like 5 major puzzles in the game. It's very, very cleverly put together. So you have to have a new clue before you can start even thinking about key number 5. But key number 5, the clue is that it's in the throne room. It's with a king on his throne. What we did was we had basically filled out the whole room directory, except for a room that we knew that we were missing. And the clue being that it's a king on his throne, well, we knew that we were missing the Black King. I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be a throne room, like literally a throne room, but I certainly was expecting that we are missing a room and the missing room has the Black King. So I felt like that missing room was going to be the key to finding Sanctum key number 5. To be able to find that, you got to get into Blackbridge Grotto, right? You need all 3 microchips before you can do that. How do you find the microchips? Well, the first microchip is given to you in Blackbridge Grotto. That's absolutely fine. The second microchip is inside a breakable vase in the entrance hall. Now, there are a few things that point you towards that. There's the security footage of Herbert Sinclair carrying the vase over to the pedestal. Looks pretty normal, but then you consider, why is that there? Is there something in the vase? In a new clue itself, it shows on one of the pages a broken vase with a hammer lying next to it, also kind of indicating to you that you should be smashing that with the hammer. And I believe there might be an allusion to it in an Alzara prophecy as well. But that microchip is the slightly easier one to obtain. The third microchip is wild. So you need to read a new clue with the with the magnifying glass, which you would have done anyway, because there are various parts of a new clue that have to be read with the magnifying glass. What you need to see with the magnifying glass is some very tiny numbers next to the words on a particular page of the book, which when you then read those words in the order in which they are numbered, it will give you a clue to check all the corner cases. On a different page in the book, there is a checklist of corner rooms, some of which have been checked off, some of which haven't. And if you check the rooms which haven't been checked off in that list, you'll find nothing. But what you will find is some notes where some word in the notes is in a different font, well, a different case, a different font to the rest of the note. So there's one in Parlour where you have Bridget written Bridge ETTE. There's one in the Nook where you have one word in a rules explanation which is in a different font to the rest of the words. My major objection with this puzzle, it's kind of hard to find. The small numbers in the book, I found those pretty hard to spot, to be honest. And the cases being a different handwriting it's one of those ones where you're sort of blurring the line between video game logic, real world logic, and video game conceits, right? Conceits to simplicity. For example, in these memos, some of the memos are typed and some of the memos are handwritten. But in reality, none of the memos are handwritten, right? Everything's rendered as a font. Looking at corner cases as a clue to be check out different cases. It's a little bit like the Rebus puzzles in the gallery. It totally passed us by, and Sanctum key number 5 passed us by on a number of different levels. Does that mean overall it's a pretty bad puzzle? Nah, not really. I mean, it's pretty good, right? A new clue is very good. Broadly speaking, yes, you get the 3 microchips and then you get the key. After you've got the 3 microchips and you go into Blackbridge and then you go to collect the throne room. Finding the key is then as straightforward as drafting the throne room whenever you get it offered and have the gems to be able to do it. So getting the 3 microchips is basically the end of the puzzle to getting the 5th Sanctum key. Overall though, I felt Sanctum Key 5 was a little bit of a messier puzzle than some of the other grander puzzles like Room 46, Chess Pieces, or Twinned Pictures. I'm certainly not going to put it in S tier. For the ambition of it, I'll pop it into A tier, because it is a very ambitious puzzle. I don't think it quite sticks the landing. Overall though, taking Sanctum Keys as a whole, I do think it sums to greater than the sum of its parts. And even though some of these keys are a little bit stickier than others to find, it provides the player with a really clear goal, a clear objective. You know what you're sort of working towards, even if you don't know exactly how to do it. And it's going to draw upon a lot of different things that you've learned and a lot of different things that you've seen throughout the game. So Sanctum Keys as a whole is an S tier puzzle. If you consider Sanctum Keys as a single puzzle, all of it works together to create something very holistic, even if you wouldn't rank any individual key as an S tier puzzle. So let's talk about some of those other Act 2 side questy puzzles, and we'll talk first about security footage. There's a couple of notes that you can get, which are, I believe one's in the attic and one's in the safe house, and these have got drawings of the monitors in the security room. The 2 of them have letters written in them. And if you stare at the security monitors for long enough, you'll realise that they actually say a word. And what that word is a separate second admin account, which will get you into security footage. It's a little puzzle. It's not really required for anything, but I like it. It's nice. It's a nice little thing, and arranging the monitors so that the names of the rooms make a thing. That's an A. That's an A. Tick. Very, very little I don't like about that. First drafts. We spoke about the tomb in Act 1. After you have done all of the Sanctum Keys and done all of the sigils, or basically all of them, there is a world map puzzle in Room 46 that you are then able to answer with confidence. Like, you could get the answer with 7 or even 6 sigils rather than needing all 8, but theoretically you should take all 8 before going and answering that. And what that gives you is a letter that says the names of the deities, and there are 8 of them, 9 of them. I think there's 8 of them, right? I don't know if Draxus is the 9th or if he's one of the 8. And they are in a different order. There's a more official, a traditional order to naming them, which you will notice is different to the order that they are listed in the chapel. Now, some of them you may know because the statue of Mila turns up in the maid's chamber sometimes, so you might know that Mila is the maid. You might have seen the upgrade disc for the cloister, and so maybe you know the names of 3 of the others. And so there's various environmental clues. I think in the drafting strategy, one of the drafting strategy guides, it talks about some of the deities in there as well. So there are various books you can find and various things you can find in the environment which clues you in as to which deity is which is really brilliant. It's very lore rich, it's very diegetic. You can then go back to the tomb and you touch the statues in the new order that you get from the letter, and you get access to the first drafts of a new clue and the Red Prince. which is brilliant. And I think that's a really nice puzzle. So taking that puzzle from the letter, giving you the new order of the deities, to the tomb where you then input those deities in. I'm going to say that that's an S-tier puzzle, right? Because of the way that you have to use information gained from the lore, from the environment, and it's a mixture of things that you've read, things that you've seen, and game mechanics in the form of things like the upgrade disc for the cloister. It's that whole stack of environmental, lore, and game mechanic to provide you the clues to be able to actually answer it. So that's an S-tier puzzle. Now here's the objection that I have to when this puzzle is presented in the game. Now this is actually one of my maybe one of my biggest criticisms of the game in terms of how the puzzles are laid out, because in the first draft of a new clue is a whole bunch of stuff that points you towards where you could find the microchip. For example, like where you could find the microchips. The little numbers that we were finding really hard to see for Sanctum key number 5 are much, much more obviously presented in the first draft version of this book. The clues that point you more obviously towards the microchip are a little bit out of sequence, because you can't really, like you could, but it would be very unusual to find these first editions before you've solved Sanctum key number 5. Like, I mean, you could do it, but you'd have to be making some pretty bold guesses on the world map puzzle to be able to do it. And so that's my objection to the placing of that payoff in the story. I think that the paragraph about the letter that points you towards this, about the different order of the deities, should have been somewhere else, not behind the Room 46 world map puzzle. Let's talk about learning Erasian with a view to eventually translating Clara's letter. We love a good translation game for sure. We'll spend ages doing a bit of Tunic and so on. You do get a lot of clues from a lot of different places. The majority of your Erasian is going to be got from the final exam and from the classroom where it teaches you Erasian, but you also get it from other places as well. You get it from some of the postcards that Sinclair leaves. Ajlor something, hello Lune, something like that, when he's going to the sea. We do love a bit of a conlang, and I think this one's pretty good. It's really interesting to try and tackle one which has no verbs as well. And this obviously also feeds into, eventually, it feeds into the mausoleum puzzles, the castle cipher puzzle. Erasian, that's also an S-tier puzzle. If you think I'm putting too many puzzles into S-tier, to be honest, it's an S-tier game. So I'm not sure if we were thinking that anything else was going to happen, except a lot of these puzzles going into S-tier. Let's then talk about sigils. Now, unlike the Sanctum keys, I'm not going to treat each individual sigil separately, right? We're going to talk about sigils as a whole, because broadly speaking, many of the sigils are solved using similar methods. So your first two sigils, Orindia and Fenares, they're basically given to you. Like Orindia, you can see it in the secret garden, you can see it on the table in the basement, and that's the first when you really get it. Fenares, you know that from the passports, and I think there's actually a copy of the Fenares sigil literally in Realm and Rune. Fenares is basically given to you as well. And the rest of them, you have to work out from a variety of environmental and written clues. And there are some places where you get a lot of clues for different ones together, okay? most notably the stamps. And I think in a way that's a little bit of a shame. If you don't see the stamp collection either in the library or in the mail room, if you don't notice the stamps with the magnifying glass, you are a little bit stifled from quite a few of the clues. Like, it's hard to get a sense that Archares is the lightning-powered one. Now, there are other clues dotted around, like the fact that Nuance uses dirigibles, so them being airship-powered, is in the history class, and it's in the projector. Vera, having the turtles, is one of the stamps. Kororicha, being academic, university orientated, and cold, the weather you get from the stamps as well. But I think there is some other reference to it being cold too. But if you get the dorm room, it's full of Kororicha stuff, so you know that that's where Sinclair went to university. My absolute favourite one, though, is we actually solved Vera as being hot by looking at the world map and noting that that island does not have any lakes or rivers on it, right? And so therefore it must be hot. And that is an extreme level of attention to detail on the part of Tonda, the game designer. The sigils, though, I think the sigils fall short of S tier because there is quite a bit of them which is a little bit of guesswork, but also I sort of felt that given that the coats of arms, the runes, are supposed to be sort of representative of the culture of the country in question, it seemed to me from an internal lore point of view odd that these would be constantly being updated with modern technology. Nuance using their airships, like airships must be like a somewhat recent invention, but having the airships on their coat of arms as like their primary means of travel, but also having militaristic as their sort of national outlook, didn't kind of sit correctly with me, because yes, they were involved in the war with Arindia, but plenty of countries that aren't militaristic get involved with wars occasionally. I would have thought it would be much clearer that they must be like scientific or industrial if their primary mode of transportation is airship, you know, rather than militaristic. But I don't know. I mean, these are kind of minor gripes. I just felt like some of the clues were not as clear as with the other puzzles, and if you missed some critical things, you did kind of get a little bit stuck and you were forced to guess. So I think the sigils for me is an A tier puzzle. And once you've got that final sigil, you are basically done with Act 2, except there's one more puzzle that you then need to go, and we've already alluded to it. It is the map in room 46. So now that you've got all of those sigils, you've got all of the postcards, you can then work out which order Sinclair visited the various countries around the world. And this effectively works in a very similar way to the Sanctum Key number 3 puzzle. Essentially, you've got a bunch of statements and you're trying to put them in order so that they all work on a correct timeline. There's an interesting little twist because you have to understand enough of the lore to know that Arindia and Fenares are in fact the same country, which I really liked. That gave me a bit of a chortle, and I'll put that as a nice little A tier puzzle. Into the home stretch now, and let's talk about unlocking the satellite dish. To get the satellite dish, your prerequisites for this are what we already discussed for finding the throne room. You need to have already found all 3 microchips, for which you must already have found a new clue. There's no chance you're finding the microchips without a new clue anyway. To unlock the satellite dish, you have to put the microchips into the sundial. How do you open the sundial? Well, you got to burn the sundial. How do you know to burn the sundial? Well, you read a new clue. On every page of a new clue is a road sign or something. It's some kind of road sign. There are various places throughout the game where you have references to reading the signs, or the fact that Mary's gone missing and there's no sign of her, as well as references to the code XYZABC. Every page has a road sign. You read the road signs and it gives you a set of directions. That set of directions is meaningless on its own until you find a metro map. The metro map you obviously find next to, on the metro station, in the safe house where Mary was holed up. Now, how do you know to put that in with the metro map? Well, there's a couple of ways, because in a new clue itself, there is a reference to a metro station, but there is also, if you have found the secret admin password to get into the secret admin account in security, you can find a video of Mary holding up a sign which is in the shape of the metro route that you need to take. Okay. Once you've used the signs to chart through the metro route, when you then reference that with the metro map, what you have is a set of stations you've gone through and the numbers those stations represent, right? Because in the key, the stations are numbered. So that gives you a 6-number combination. Then, in a new clue, again, you will find XYZABC, and you have to substitute letters for those numbers. And it will tell you, like, book A, page X, book Y, page B. Elsewhere in a new clue, there is a reference to the fact that there is a set of books of different colours with names that are anagrams. And you know they're anagrams because on yet a different page of a new clue, the inspector is trying to work out the names of the books by shuffling the letters. That then tells you, once you have worked out which book you need to read, by shuffling the letters around in the anagrams of the books within a new clue, you can then go and find those books from the library or elsewhere on the estate, and then you can find the single word that forms part of a clue, and you get a 6-word clue, which tells you to scorch the sundial. Then it's just a question of either taking the torch, or the self-lighting torch, or the burning glass, going to the sundial, putting a couple of scorch marks in, turning it around until it opens. Wow. What a puzzle. Do I need to say more? It's an S-tier puzzle. So good. So many layers. So many layers on that puzzle. In comparison to the corner cases puzzle, where the corner cases to find the microchip is pretty obtuse, and if you don't notice the numbers in there's nothing really pointing you towards it. It kind of felt like finding the third microchip was way harder than discovering what you needed to do with the sundial. So Satellite Dish gets into the S tier. It's a nice puzzle. It's a nice puzzle, that one. Now we're into the big ones. Finding the Scepter. To find the Scepter, you need to first find where the real treasure of the treasure trove is. The real treasure of the treasure trove is outside. Well, that points you pretty clearly towards going and using your Blessing of the Monk to take the treasure trove outside, right? And when you do that, you find that the box now can't be opened with a regular key. So how do we open this? Well, that's a little vague. For me, it's the weakest part of this puzzle. Now, we sort of lucked into this one. You have the castle cipher by smashing the cracked wall in the chess puzzle room, you will reveal the castle cipher, the first line of the castle cipher. You get the instruction to crack that open by a scrap of paper in the safe house. So you'll find that. That's no problem. You find the grid, you find castle, and gradually, as you're going through the house, you will fill out the rest of the board. One clue is at the back of the cloister. You're very likely to find that. One clue is just in the kennel. That's kind of nice. One's on the back of the door in the secret passage, which is a little bit cheeky, but probably a nod to previous adventure-style games where you have to close doors behind you. You will eventually fill out that castle cipher. But even if you don't have anything from the castle cipher yet, you read it down from top to bottom on the left column and it says castle. Now, if you know your chess very well, you know that the castles are actually called rooks, but to castle is to swap the positions of the king and the rook. And that is what you're going to do. And you do it by taking the banner of the king first, and then taking the stalwart nature of the rook, or whatever it's called. And that will move them around. I think that one's a little weak, because this is one where there is not one, but two blue tent memos that point you towards doing that. It's one of the very few puzzles that relies on you having external real-world knowledge to be able to solve the puzzle, unless you're going to find the blue tent memo to do it. I don't think, now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I don't think there are any other clues in the game that point you towards touch the king first, then go and touch the rook, and that will reveal a path. I think that's a weakness in that puzzle. Thankfully, we didn't get trapped too long behind that. We kind of got a little bit lucky. I think that's a bit of a weakness, but you do it, you get into the pathway, and then you have the Morajai boxes. And the Morajai boxes, when solved, will give you, amongst other kind of lore sort of stuff, some instructions. Come here at the sacred hour, which is 1:30, with nothing in your inventory, like that, and whilst the cross is in the sky. This is a really great execution phase puzzle, because it's not too onerous, it's not too fiddly, but you've got to keep it in mind on a day where you know you're going to get the cross. Now, to be able to do that, you kind of need to know when the cross is going to come up, and you've got to plan for it the day before, because you can't just go and get the cross one day and then go, oh great, now I'm going to empty my inventory, because getting rid of all of your coins can actually be like a little bit difficult, and you've got to get rid of all of your keys, you've got to get rid of all your gems. Much better to know when the cross is coming up in the sky, and you start your day with a plan to do that mausoleum area. Now, the observatory still requires you to have a gem in your inventory, and it's kind of one of those rare edge cases where having the gemstone mine could be a downside, but it's not too much of a downside, because okay, you save one gem for the observatory and you just make sure you spend your last gem. Don't pick up anything else, and then you can go and do it fairly swiftly. But you've got to find the observatory reasonably soon, and then you do that, and from the ground will rise a giant clock. Enter the correct code, and you will open it up. And this is where we got stuck. We came so close, though. We came so close on it. But what you have is you have an Eurasian cipher. CIX, add 6, rotate to the word east. And we came really close, actually, because the word east is 1 minute off the number that east is next to. We didn't solve this one in the end. Now, I think the castle cipher is a totally fair puzzle. We didn't solve it. Did we have a hint, or did we look up the answer? I actually don't remember. I think we got a pretty heavy hint. I think someone told us like where we needed to go to find the definition of the word, because it It was Tor. That was the word we were missing. Tor. Well, Tor means is the inverse of rot. Rot means to turn clockwise. Tor then means to turn anti-clockwise. So that was the bit we got stuck on. I think we got a pretty heavy hint as to where to find the definition of that. That is not the part of the puzzle I think is the most dubious. I genuinely think the most dubious part of the Scepter puzzle and finding the Scepter is having the knowledge that you need to castle the king and the rook and how you would do that. So for that, as much as I love the Scepter puzzle, I'm going to drop it down to an A tier, and I'm going to say it's not an S tier puzzle, because not quite every element really works. Okay, the last puzzle we're going to talk about, Reclaim the Crown. This is a puzzle which is so heavy on the execution, but also it's pretty vague on the understanding as well. But it's bringing together everything from a lot of different runs into one big perfect run. It is the Act 3 equivalent of your Room 46 run. When you're going for Room 46 early in the game, you have to get a perfect run, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm gonna get the Room 46 lever because I need to get to rank 9. I need an antechamber door open. I need to get to the basement, pull the Room 46 lever, get back, get into Room 46. Everything has to go perfectly. And this is like the Act 3 equivalent of that. You've got to get to Room 46 as step 1. But you also need to have got yourself the Scepter. Now that the Scepter has been patched so that you don't need to go and collect it from the treasure trove, it is perhaps a little easier because you do start your day every day with the Scepter, regardless of where you ended the previous day. So you got to get your Scepter. You got to figure out that the colour of the Scepter has to be correct. You can't just do it with any old Scepter. Now, this is one of the ones where, unfortunately, I got spoiled on this one, which was unintentional. How you would work that out, well, I guess you could work that out somewhat, from a lore point of view by saying, well, the Scepter has to be blue because the crown is blue. The Scepter has to be blue because what we're doing is this is Mount Holly, right? It's not Arindia. I thought it would have to be black, because I thought what Simon's objective is here really is to restore Arindia. But that was me sort of misunderstanding the lore a little bit. So you do have to figure out the Scepter has to be blue, which is not super duper obvious to me. And you have to get the stone, the cursed stone that's referenced in the Black Bridge novel. How do you know that you need to gather these things? Well, the only clue I've found for this is that you have to use your Blessing of the Monk to get the antechamber out into the outside room, and then in the Room 46 equivalent in the antechamber, you can then find a little poem about the Scepter, the stone, the crown. Now, I guess it's probably fairly likely you will come across this, because by this point, you would have to have used the monk to get the treasure trove outside. And once you've done that, you know that moving rooms outside can kind of change the nature of the rooms. So it's likely that you're going to experiment taking other rooms outside. It's likely that you're going to experiment taking Room 46 outside, or taking the entrance hall outside, or taking the antechamber outside, or even taking the foundation outside. And so I think it's fairly reasonable to suggest that it's reasonably likely that the player will come across that clue. It's a pretty well-placed clue. Can you interpret that clue to understand what you need to do? Well, the throne, in its graphic, literally says reclaim the throne as the thing that room enables you to do. And then you have ready is the throne in this other clue. So stone, scepter, crown. You're going to take all of these, you're going to bring them to the throne. It requires one beautiful run where you're going to go to room 46 as your step 1. You're going to make sure you have the scepter in your inventory, which maybe you actually start the day with nowadays. And then you've got to go make sure your outside room is the shrine so that you can crack open that box, grab the cursed stone, and with 13 steps left to go, make your way to the throne room. It's a great execution, right? It's a great puzzle execution. It's like beating curse mode because everything has to come together on a single run that works really well, and yeah, it's going to take sort of several days to get it to work, but when it works, it's such a relief, and it brings Act 3 to a really nice and satisfying conclusion. So where are we going to place this? Well, let's not beat around the bush. This is an S-tier puzzle. Not only is it an S-tier puzzle in terms of its design, it's an S-tier puzzle in terms of its theming, right? George Lucas once famously said that good storytelling has to rhyme, right? It has to have a kind of meter to it. You have to kind of see the similarities as you're going through, but through different contexts. The way that your Reclaim the Throne run mirrors your Room 46 run, not only in terms of game mechanics, in terms of putting together this perfect run where everything's gonna go right for you, but in terms of theming. There's like this golden thread that moves between your Room 46 run being where Simon is going to realize his inheritance, to your Reclaim the Throne run being where Simon realizes perhaps the true meaning of that inheritance, right? The true inheritance of the estate. In terms of the puzzle design, yes, it's not perfect. Like, there are a couple of things that I would criticize, but the only thing I would really criticize about this puzzle is the color of the scepter not being terribly well telegraphed, but you could argue that that's environmental. You're supposed to absorb the lore. You're supposed to understand that the scepter needs to be blue because you are the blueprince. It's excellent. It's an excellent puzzle, and it works brilliantly to bookend Room 46 and Act 3. And in many ways, it acts also as a very satisfactory off-ramp. If you're a player that has maybe been struggling with some of these puzzles at this point, Reclaim the Throne is a brilliant moment where you can take an off-ramp from the game if you wish, with a satisfying conclusion. And yet, it still then presents you with a goal for what you should do next if you were to continue playing. I mean, I can't fault it. Any criticism I have of it is so minor in comparison to the scale, in comparison to the ambition of the puzzle. It's an S-tier puzzle. Well, my friends, that is going to bring us to the end of this tier list and the end of this two-part series where we go through and rank every single puzzle out of Acts 1, 2, and 3 from Blueprince. What is on this list that you disagree with? What would you put higher? What would you put lower? What have I forgotten to talk about entirely? Did you have a favourite puzzle that I have completely forgotten about? I think I hit most of them, but let me know in the comments where what puzzles I've missed and where you would rank them. Thank you so much for watching these episodes. If you enjoyed these tier lists, do hit that like button. Consider leaving a subscribe on this second channel. The main channel, of course, is where we do our gameplay. This channel is more for video essays, shorts, thoughts, and so forth. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I will see you very soon. Bye for now.